Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I am David Marí from BDigital, and I will be moderating this session for you. Welcome to Developing ICT-Based City Initiatives. Which are the key elements in the relationship between urban developments and strong ICT foundations? Are smart city projects helping to leverage ICT technologies like big data or cloud computing? Can we take advantage of the city assets we already have? Are there any platforms that we can rely to develop smart city initiatives? Is the smart city pace of growth sustainable? And finally, how are these developments affecting us as human beings? In order to answer these questions and other related to ICT-based developments, we have a great panel of speakers today. It is my pleasure to introduce you to, from Sweden, Rega Kakabas, project manager at Kista Science City. Rega is a senior expert on urban development and technologies that involve citizens taking an active role in the management of cities. From United States, Paul Doherty. Good morning. He's the president and CEO of the Digi Group. Paul is considered one of the global industry's leading thought leaders, strategists, and integrators of smart city solutions. From Italy, we have Maurizio Cecchi. Good morning, Maurizio. He's responsible of the collaborative research department at Telecom Italia and is leader of the Sci-Fi, the project that developed the European Federation of Phylab Nodes. From Italy as well, we have Vincenzo Maltese. Good morning. He's research fellow at the University of Trento, and Vincenzo has participated in several European projects, such as Living Knowledge or Smart Society. His main area of expertise is the design, creation, maintenance, and exploitation of knowledge resources. And finally, from the Netherlands, we've got Iemke Idsingh. He's the Public Sector Solutions Director from Oracle. Good morning. Iemke is worldwide responsible for the Oracle Smart City platform, and is helping cities to create a citywide nervous system connecting cities with citizens. Thank you all for being here this morning. And so let's start with the first presentation. For the first presentation, we've got Paul Doherty, who is going to talk about vertical and horizontal smart cities, implementing solutions in China, India, and the Middle East. When you want, Paul.
Good morning, everybody. Hello? Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? I'm from New York. Usually I don't need a microphone. I have a big mouth, so sorry for that. What I really would love to do first is to actually do kind of a selfie, if you don't mind. So if everyone would just wave, and I'll try and get like a really good selfie going here, okay? We can do this. We can do this. Everyone, do it. Hey! That'll be up on Twitter underneath the Smart City Expo hash mark, right? So my name's Paul, and I'm a recovering architect. Good morning, Paul. I'm part of a 12-step program with this. And I'm not a software architect, a real architect, but I've been involved with technology now for a little over 30 years, getting my start actually at IBM. What you're going to see today is actually a short story on some very interesting cities that we've been involved with. Big difference from even a year ago when I spoke here, where everything was in demo mode and prototype. What's nice to see is that people are embracing technology along with smart cities. What I'm hearing a lot during this particular conference is, oh, don't forget about the people, the people, the people. Of course it's about the people. But I'm going to tell you something. If you do not implement ICT properly, your cities are not going to be able not just to be smart, but they will not be sustainable for the vast amounts of people that are becoming urbanites. So this is a very important topic that we can start to see some trends both in China, which we'll talk a little bit about some projects there, India with Prime Minister Modi's 100 Smart Cities, which we have some information that we like to share, and in particular the Middle East, where I've had the luxury and the privilege of actually working with some of the cooler projects out there, implementing what we call Orbi, which is applications for smart cities. So who are we? Well, we're a group that actually has created a good group of technologies that people use every day. and there we go, thank you, that is involved for architects, engineers, and contractors, and also facility managers. Technologies that Autodesk purchased, thank you Autodesk, like Revit, Buzzsaw, and IBM's Tririga. We actually have a decent footprint for a very small company. We're a startup, but we decided that we wanted to have a global reach. And if that person in the back could make some more noise, I'd appreciate that. Sorry. And then, of course, we have different markets, and we're seen as thought leaders only because of the type of work that we've done so far for Oxford University with white papers concerning the frameworks of how ICT can be enabled, including other white papers with McGraw-Hill and the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So why is a small startup actually talking about these things? Well, interestingly enough, we seem to be just in the right place at the right time. And what I mean by that is that we made friends with a lot of different folks at government levels in different governments. In the case of the United States, U.S. Commerce Secretary Pritzker actually chose us as the only technology company this past March to be part of a trade mission to visit the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Because of that, we were introduced at a very high level to decision makers, people that normally I wouldn't be able to get to. And because of that, you're going to be seeing some projects such as the world's tallest building and others that are implementing these technologies, not just for horizontal cities, but what happens when you build a 1 kilometer tall tower? You have a vertical city. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. In the People's Republic of China, we have an agreement with the largest state-owned enterprise, IT company called GateGuard, and we're involved right now with a $320 billion smart city program put out by the group called the NDRC in Beijing. This is actually going out to the 11 clusters, not the 22 that were talked about in yesterday's keynote, but the 11 clusters of how actually things work there in a very meaningful way. So we'll talk about a couple of those cities. And then finally, most recently last week, making a deal with the government of Prime Minister Modi, talking about these 100 smart cities, and in particular, the Andhra Pradesh, and where there's a huge effort going on right now to get things right from a green building standpoint. So what are the things that are really pressing forward on this? In our opinion, we like to follow adoption life cycles of technologies. This is one example of what we use to help prioritize and help make decisions based on strategy, not based on the coolest buzzwords that seem to be relevant, especially out on the show floor, right? I've never seen so much words about this thing and that thing, resilience and everything else. Oh, yeah, that's all great. It's my greatest hope, and it's actually our mission as a company, that the word smart cities goes away and it's just called urban solutions. It's just called cities. The best technology is when it's transparent to the process. The best technology is when it's transparent to the process. And that's what we really want to show with this adoption life cycle, that sometimes there's a lot of hype with things like the Internet of Things and big data. And by the way, we really don't call it big data anymore. That's to 2013. It's infinite data. We have flows like a river of data that will never stop. And so now, how do you actually not just take big data as a snapshot, but how do you actually start to dive into a river that's flowing at an unbelievable rate? These are the things that are now have high expectations, but there's also been technologies, even like from last year, that seem to be going into this trough of disillusionment. And what we're trying to find is, are they really failed experiments? Are they really failed technologies? Or are they just going through the adoption cycle? Because we need to get into that expectation level that says, you know what, let's make this productive and actually let's get it in place. And what we're finding is that certain technologies are really taking off. In the case of Apple, I know all the big talk was about like the Apple 6 Plus and the Apple Wallet, you know, the Apple Watch and all that stuff for this past fall. But the biggest thing to come out of that announcement were these. These are called Ibeacons. These are actually created by Apple that are literally these little stick-ups. They have adhesive. And if I put one of these into this room, I'd have connectivity out to the internet that I can then program what I want you to do or what I want your smartphone to do. This is the ultimate in the Internet of Things, because this has a 60-meter capability of now taking in data and then using the cloud then to push information back out to you. So retailers like the Apple stores, as you see here in Grand Central Station in New York, are using these to actually start to automate certain processes. And those processes are built upon smart city thoughts and ideas about trying to make the experience, the user experience, better. So retailers are now using this to actually start to push out information that, this person shopped here 2 weeks ago, maybe they need a coupon to actually push them over the edge because they almost bought another product. Kind of spooky. It's just like that movie Minority Report, but it's here. Ibeacons. The Ibeacons also are being used right now for safety and security issues. Of course, you see out on the show floor that the drones are the big part of this, because the Internet 2.0 is no longer about you just interfacing with another person. It's about you interfacing with inanimate objects and other inanimate objects talking amongst themselves. It's beyond the Internet of Things. It's called the Internet of Everything. And when you start to now connect those things, interesting things start to happen. So in Atlanta Airport, what we're doing is experimenting with nanotechnology that's actually built into the furniture, the fixtures, and the equipment of bathrooms. Because if you ever notice what happens when you go into a bathroom at any public bathroom, usually there's a sheet up on the wall that you see when the last time it was cleaned. And usually the facility manager would say, that cleaner has to go in once an hour. But that's very inefficient, because if you go to any airport, there's some times where the airport's very empty, but that still has to be cleaned once an hour. That's very, very inefficient. So the way that we're working right now is that with the nanotechnology of the surface of the sink, we'll actually talk with the toilet and say, are you dirty? Yeah, I'm dirty. Come clean me. So now all of a sudden you have surfaces start to talk to each other that need to be cleaned maybe every 20 minutes when it's busy, but maybe every 2 or 3 hours when it's not. Better efficiency, making inanimate objects talk to each other. It's going to be very fun to see if the sink actually opens up a Facebook site and actually friends the toilet. That'll be funny. So why is all this happening? Well, it's about data. And that data actually now, in the world of smart cities, how you actually implement an ICT project in cities, always comes back to the data. Unfortunately, we're so focused in on documents that we think that documents are data. That's not really true. Inherently, data wants to be free. There's a great book by John Seely Brown, the former director of Xerox PARC, that said there's a social life to information. And that data wants to get out of its trap, which are documents. Now, we still need documents for a lot of different reasons, insurances and not getting sued and direction. But when we start to get used to the flow of data, you can understand why Google purchases a group called Nest that does things like thermometers and other things like that. But really what it's doing is capturing information about the house so that then they can actually start providing better services. Ibeacons by Apple. And then probably most important thing about 2.0, the Internet 2.0, is this world of gaming. And this is where I'm going to take off with things like Minecraft and other types of tools that the kids are using today that are good storytelling mechanisms. And this is where we turn into buildings. So what does all this Internet 2.0 mean? At the end of the day, it comes down to things like the Kingdom Tower that are now starting to say, what happens when you put people into a tower that may not leave for days, weeks, or months at a time? And what we're doing is working with artificial intelligence to actually make that happen. Think about when you have your phones talk to you. If you use Apple, it's Siri. Imagine Siri for the building. This is actually what's happening, where the building's going to recognize you. It'll understand your likes, your dislikes. It'll understand your facial recognition, so it has empathy. This is the new way of how buildings will now have a trusted relationship with you. This becomes a very, very interesting way then when you have autonomous things like robots and stuff that will also have this artificial intelligence. These projects are real, they're being implemented, and we should be aware of them, because when you start to connect these buildings together, you get a smart city. In the case of Atlanta, we actually created this entire world based on gaming technology. But the cool part about it really wasn't just the ability to have this virtual world in place. It was the ability to attach data to it to create applications. And this is where the new world is happening. We're actually in the process right now of giving away the cities for free. You see a lot of great examples of that, like Clever in the Catalonia Pavilion and others. I saw some examples of how people are trying to charge for this in some of the sessions I saw yesterday. Those days are like 5 years ago. The new future is we give this away for free because it's open source and the city owns this. The city owns the model. It's an empty vessel. But you're creating an entire new world of people that can write applications for it, so that every city now has the ability to create something that is for them. And the idea is to take those open standards of XML, of HTML, and WebGL, and actually put these into a different world. So with that, my time is running out. Unfortunately, this was very, very quick. And I'm going to pop through here. I'm going to skip over some of the firefighting apps and stuff like that, but get down to some interesting things to think about the Internet of Things. If you go to wearedata.watchdogs.com, what you will see is the new way of how information technology is being used to capture information live. Now, these people are doing it for gaming purposes, where you can actually go into places like London, click on these particular areas, and then get real-time information of who's tweeting who's uploading to Facebook, what's the crime rate, what's the electricity consumption, and where's my train. If I click on it, I'll actually find out when it's coming into the station, live. wearedata.watchdogs.com. Why am I showing this? Well, the bad guys have this information too. And what we're looking at right now is a new age where we all have to pay attention to this data, that we should be looking at the adoption life cycles of what this really does mean. And at the end of the day, we really do need to have this as our generation's challenge, that ICT is not something to push away, it's something to embrace so that we can create these new cities, not have it look like Blade Runner, but actually do it for the real reasons, and this is why I do things, my son. So with that, I'd like to thank you. We do have some great things to share when it comes to solutions. One of those is that we do host hackathons, and we host them in places like Facebook and other places around the world. We'll be coming to Dublin, hopefully Copenhagen in the not too distant future. And what we do is we spend a weekend to hack issues and come up with the start of solutions. It's a great way of taking technology and great ideas like what you have so that you can paint those targets up and have the technology people take a swing at hacking some of the issues that we have, because like I said, it's the most important issue in today's world is how do you take technology, people, and the actual cities they live in and actually make a better built environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Next speaker is Maurizio Cecchi. He's going to present FIWARE, a federation of infrastructures for smart cities.
Good morning. I think that you heard something about the program in other session in the booth, but just I would like now to stress this is not working, the contribution that the public-private partnership on future internet is giving to the cities in terms of a federation of infrastructure. Sorry. Perhaps we can. Technology.
Yeah, it seems we have a technical issue.
It's not working.
No pasa.
No. No.
Okay.
No, it's working.
Now we can go on.
Sorry. So, as you know, the European Commission funded a very large program called Public-Private Partnership on Future Internet that have different phases and different components. The first part was the development of software component platform to help then the adoption of new service and application in smart cities and in other environments. This is already available, so everybody that would like to use this is free. That is online, so you can get it. Then there was a second phase, testing all these technologies in large trial and use cases in different domains. And there was a decision to invest with this public-private investment scheme, a federation of infrastructure that means data center, wireless sensors, IoT networks, many kind of heterogeneous networks, connected through a free network of the Commission that is Gian. As you know, there is a 1 gigabit network for all these kind of programs available from the Commission. So this federation of different infrastructure, data center and other, are connected through this very performant network. And now we are in the phase of deploying the platform and the infrastructure for new services application, thinking at first to smart cities requirement. There are 80 million available. As you know, that there are 16 accelerators funded by Commission that are giving the 80 million through open call. And this is available for any kind of developer inside or outside the cities or region to develop new service and application. So we are really in the phase to help the boost of these innovative services using such technologies. So the idea is very simple. Basically, there is a unique interface that is called Fireware Lab that is accessible, and you just need to identify yourself and register. All these components that has often common APIs, so you can take which of them you want to build your service and application. You can grab this software that is, by the way, also described in terms of open specification. So there are some implementation in open source, but if you want, you can develop your software based on this open specification. And I want to stress the fact that there is a lot of usage of this through this European platform that is built by one of the projects of the program that is called CEFI. I am the leader of this large project. It's done by a private entity, mainly telcos, that are participating to this initiative coordinated by Telecom Italia. Many other main players in the telecommunication role, a lot of software company, integration company, and all the public sector, so the European network and the different national agencies that are providing high-speed internet. So all they are contributing to develop such an event. So we arrived now to 16 nodes that are, as I said, not only data center, they are very powerful in terms of core storage capability, but you can access and experiment what you want through this infrastructure in the wireless domain, in IoT domain. So you can go there, select which kind of infrastructure you want to use, and in case of need of international trial, there is the connectivity that allows you to make this complementary experiment with different parts of infrastructure that you need. This is free of charge, of course, for the period covered by the program, so for, let's say, 2 years from now till September 2016. And then the whole group of partners are thinking about a foundation, basically an open source foundation with the support of the infrastructure to make it then available for the future. So what it means that we are trying to help with this infrastructure the establishment of a unique marketplace. When people go there, find the interest of other partners, find the date was very important, was said by the previous presenter, that this allows then to have open data available on the network, and choose which kind of capacity you want to build your service for your smart cities or local authority. And now we are 16. There is a program to expand. There are new open call, and I will talk about also a new program of awarding of recognition for new infrastructure that would like to join. So what does it mean in terms of benefits for people that are using this? Of course, provides this testing environment, this Fireware Lab, where you got the software, the infrastructure, the data that you need. Ensure large-scale validation. This is a huge program involving 400 partners all through Europe. Enable competitive testing if you want to use one infrastructure or the other. A suitable environment. And one thing that is very important is also that we have an approach that preserves your privacy. If you want to have your data, your system, your software, then stored in one specific infrastructure, you can do it. Of course, the whole network is based on cloud, but if you have legal requirement from your legislation, especially in the health or when personal data are involved, you can store whatever you want and use a specific infrastructure. For instance, if you are in France and you have a specific privacy laws from the French government, you can use the infrastructure in France that is needed. And this is not provided from the usual cloud services like Amazon or the other. And because we have all this public part, so the research institutions that are working, you can do this with the research unit that is based in your region, so to help then further development and development. So For cities, for an authority, this means that you get, of course, access for free from this wider resource pool. Other groups that are interested in your specific domain, access to new ideas. As I said, this exercise of the third phase, where we are spending the 80 million for new services, it means that will be more than 1,000 new SMEs or new developers that you will use the software, and for new services. These services will be available, so all the information. So if you get in, you will get access to all of this. Of course, you can share the risk because you can do this with other people. Reduce cost of the development. Of course, especially this is not for big companies, for small companies that have to work with the city, have to provide something, don't have the money to build a new infrastructure, so can use whatever is there online. And of course, this means time to the market, reduce time because you can do it with some tested technology that is already used by many other people. Is important because it's a question many times raised. Of course, all the software are built and developed by the companies belonging to the program, to these 400 companies, but all of them, so the software components that are behind, and also the component or infrastructure, if you want to enter or use it, is open source. So you can take it and use it for your specific initiative. And then there is a large set of tools to help then the usage in terms of webinar training. There is one at 12:30 at the booth. So after this meeting, so if you want to come to FIWARE, let's say, stand, you can see this one. But we have this kind of training event very often each month. And through our portal, you can get the information where this training is happening. And as we said, at the moment we have these 16 nodes. Others are joining, not all in Europe. For instance, we implemented one node in Mexico. We are working with Brazil. We are having talked with US and Canada to see how we can use together this. But there is also a recognition and rewarding program. So if there are people willing to participate, they can join us, and there is some money, not much, for new people that want to bring their infrastructure in. These are all the information that will remain in the presentation. So, of course, as I said, there is this unique access that is FIWARE Lab, but there are all the links there in order to use the technology, use the infrastructure, use the training tools, and so on. So you can get there directly through all this site. And of course, this is an open program, so we invite everybody to join and to participate. 3 seconds left.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. Okay, next speaker is Vincenzo Maltese. He's presenting a hybrid society is already happening.
Okay. So let me start with a joke. So you know that people say that if you give a problem to a German, he will give you a solution. But if you give a problem to an Italian, you will get 10 problems. So I'm not German. So I'm going to provide here no solutions, but I'm going to warn you about all the kind of issues that you can face when you develop an ICT solutions. So let me start by saying that if you read on your badge, you read change the future. But actually, change the world. But actually, the world and the society as a whole has quite radically changed in the past few years. So what happened in the past few years that didn't happen in the million of years of our evolution so far? Well, actually, what I'll try to convince you with this presentation is that we already now live in a society which is made of humans and machines, and they tightly collaborate with each other. So I'm not going to tell you about Internet of Things and robots that surely are good things, but I'm going to tell you about something which is more intimate. So all of us has in our pocket a mobile phone. And I think all of you remember the last time in which you forgot it at home, or how a nightmare it was in your day, right? So this is going to change radically the way ICT systems should be developed, because even in a smart city, and this is actually even more pervasive because I think it goes beyond the limit of a city, you should think to your users or your citizens not just as a person, but as a hybrid being composed by himself and his mobile phone. And let me give you some example of how this is happening. So you know, everybody has experienced, at least, maybe not in person, but through his friends or her friends, that already now it's possible to monitor what we are doing. So for instance, we can go out for jogging, and the system, your mobile phone, even if it is in your pocket, can understand that actually what path did you take, how many kilometers you did, and also maybe the calories that you spent. And these devices are already quite autonomous because they can basically act as you and post such information on your favorite social network. And why this is possible? Because mobile phones are already equipped right now with tons of sensors, up to 16. And these sensors, if you compare them to your 5 senses, it's a lot. And maybe current solutions don't even take all these sensors and correlate in a way in which we as humans correlate and combine our senses together. So all these technologies allow us to be an hybrid, as a person and as a device, which is able to understand where we are, what we are doing, and to some extent even with whom we are. So they can learn a lot about us. This is social because, as we discussed, they allow us to mediate our communication with other friends. And it's going to be fun, so there is a lot of gamification research in order to make it fun for us. What this allows? So it allows us to offer to their users what people call contextualized services. So we can become smarter because we can get what is very relevant to us according to where we are and what we are doing. So, and this is going to be a constant support to our decision making as a citizen in the smart city. However, the fact that we are individually smarter doesn't tell us that we are collectively smarter. So everybody cares in smart societies and smart cities about sustainability, but after all, we rely on individual behavior. And the way by which we convince what people call the black sheep to behave in a way which is eco-friendly or anyhow consistent with what the society expects from us in order to improve the society as a whole. So people refer to this problem sometimes as the problem of herding the black sheep. But actually, if you think about it, this is not only a technological problem because, okay, we can find ways by which we identify the black sheep. We can identify ways by which we can incentivize the black sheep to behave in a way in which is sustainable. But the real problem to me is who decides what is black and what is white. It is what in smart society, the project I belong to, we refer to as the ethical governance of the society. So in smart society, we spent quite a lot of time in mobility scenarios. And everybody, I guess, you know about Uber and the ride-sharing applications that are around here, and which promise a kind of sustainability because they promise the reduce of cars in somehow. All these kind of applications, this is only an example, require a lot of user profiling. So they are going to know a lot about ourselves. And this surely raises a lot of privacy issues. So I got to, the people of the organization told me that if you want to remember something from my talk, I have to repeat something 3 times. So I'm going to repeat privacy, 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 because this is going to be very important in the future. And the reason why people doesn't care much at the moment is simply because the data is still in silos and it's still hard to cross them in a way in which they can get more about us. But I can assure you that the more we will go in the future, this will be increasingly a problem for us. All this information about ourselves is used in order to match our preferences towards others in a way in which they can provide us better services. And in a way in which they can orchestrate our behavior with respect to the behavior of the others in the society. So for instance, they can drive us towards taking a different route in order to improve the traffic or reduce the traffic actually in a certain circumstance. So all these issues have to be taken into account, and sometimes this application forget that it's not just a matter of user preferences, but there are a lot of cultural issues. So when you move from one place to another, I guess here there are people coming from all over the world, there are differences. And sometimes all these tools are constrained to some options and do not allow us to be flexible. For instance, we ran a study at Ben-Gurion University in Israel. We showed very clearly, and I think it should sound as obvious, that females don't like to be engaged in a ride after the sunset with males. They would prefer to ride with other females. And this is typically not addressed by this kind of tools. So suppose now that the ride starts, we participated to a ride. So current technologies, even with our mobile phone, allow us to have a navigator. They can assist us in real time. They can give us suggestions. And if we take a different decision, they assist us in taking different routes in order to accommodate to our decisions. So these are called assistive technologies. But the word is hybrid, and we can get notifications not only from automatic systems, like, I don't know, some traffic monitor, but we can also get information from other users. So the word is going to be hybrid even in this sense. The kind of information that we are consuming may come from automatic tools or from people. And we need more and more sophisticated technique in order to combine them in an intelligent way. But what I think is currently missing is the way by which technology understands the real world. So the way in which our mobile phone that we have in the pocket and we understand the world is quite radically different. And this is also due to the current limitations of the technology. For instance, if you think to the GPS, so the GPS can tell you exactly where I am, but it's not that exactly, because there is some degree of approximation, especially if I'm in an indoor environment. And what happens is that typically my mobile phone cannot distinguish between me being here and me being seated in the first row. And for us as humans, it makes a huge difference, because I'm currently the speaker and you are the audience. So it really makes what we call a semantic difference in the big sense. So all of this has to be, again, taken into account if we want to provide meaningful services to the users. And to finally, what is really important, given that the services are for us humans and not for machines, is that we need to take into account all these kind of things pertaining reputation, trust, incentives, the way by which we keep engaged in certain applications. So for instance, if you see here an example in which after the completion of a ride, people are earned with some positive points for the positive completion, because I brought all the people at home. And maybe I can be earned about my guiding style in a way in which I'm incentivized to do not overpass the limit of speed, for instance. And also the feedback of the other users in a way in which the next user will know that I'm a good driver or I'm a good passenger in these kind of applications. So all of these is addressed in a project that is called the Smart Society. It takes partners from all over Europe. They are 10 partners. It's coordinated by the University of Trento in Italy. And they range from ICT, which is surely an important aspect, but is not the only one, because we have partners pertaining ethics, privacy, incentives, trust, and reputation, which are all key aspects when you deal with people. So I'm going to conclude. So this is me, information about our project, and a book we wrote about social collective intelligence, about the future of our society. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Iemke Idsingh. He's going to present exploiting city assets. Cities tapping into their resources, do more with less.
So, good morning, everybody. My name is Iemke Idsingh, and I am responsible for Oracle's Smart City program. And I've got the privilege of seeing many cities around the world. And what struck me was that, well, it's quite evident perhaps even, everything that you saw today, everything that you see in the conference does make sense. But it's also about how get things going, how do you start things, how do you fund things, how do you pay for the things. And I think my take today on this domain is how to make sure to maximize what you already have in your city. Cities are basically a combination of a rich number of sources throughout the city in the full ecosystem. So in the time that I have, I'd like to show some examples and share some thoughts on how to tap into the resources of a city by providing the right, let's say, backbone, the right facilities in order to tap into those sources. Oops. So it all comes together in terms of trying to behave like a human body, and I think there were made a lot of analogies earlier in presentations, but I'd like to see a city as a nervous system. Everything comes together in that same body, no matter from which source, and if you are able to really support closed loops in actioning upon all the information that you get, I guess you reach the point where you have a body, a city, that can really improve quality of life. But it does mean that you have to provide a sentient infrastructure, an infrastructure that feels, that listens, that knows what is happening. And I guess the examples and the speeches of today are playing towards that goal. We are in the business of reusing that infrastructure, providing the infrastructure to make this happen. Was that? I mean, what happened to my presentation? I probably need to get back here. But this was my conclusion.
Let's see now if we can go forward.
Okay, here we are. Okay. Yes. Yeah, thank you. So you've seen my conclusion, but it's also always a good. I mean, you talked about repeating the message, so I will come back to that again. If you see cities as, let's say, a human body, as one ecosystem, I think it's fair to say that in the past, everybody was pretty much connected. In small societies, everybody would know where to go. You would organize it yourself. But over the years, we saw, let's say, a big disconnect growing in cities. So in this diagram, on the left side, you would see, let's say, the almost bureaucracy of the city, yeah. And on the right side, you would see the citizens and the businesses, yeah, doing their own stuff. And cities became bureaucracies, and citizens became self-supporting, and no longer always wait for the cities to take action on things. However, at the same time, what we see in our business is that more and more cities start to align their internal operation, driven by budget cuts driven by optimization of their assets. Their internal operation is harmonized, their data management is harmonized. And luckily, the same is happening in society as well. So what we do see is that social media help citizens to come together to create new peer-to-peer groups. They find each other thanks to technology. They tap into each other's creativity, if you will, by finding each other. And the same would be true for businesses. More and more ad hoc organized, more and more, let's say, away from corporate structures. People move from one job to the other, from one project to the other. And last but not least, the whole Internet of Things, when it comes to the rich sources in the city that are available, that you are measuring, become now interactive points of interest. You can control those devices, you can tap into those. They are all IP enabled. So that means technology on both the city side, the city operation side, and the citizen side, the businesses and the Internet of Things, start to use the communication technology to be able to come together. And this is what we see working out more and more in cities that take this serious, bridging the gap between society and the city operation itself, providing the links on all these layers. And then it plays into things like inclusiveness. Every country is mandated, is asked to make sure that nobody is left behind. So how do you make sure that you don't leave people behind? Well, make sure that you connect them, that you talk to them, that you engage with them, that you empower them. A study that I found more than 20 years old already talked about the interaction between the cities and its citizens. Citizens are quite often feeling responsible to be part of the society and to contribute to the society. But you should facilitate that as a city. Those resources, that creativity, all these brains and all these entrepreneurs, you'd better exploit it, so you can also delegate tasks to the citizens. And for that, you need also to facilitate this. And this is where we come from. We help cities to provide an infrastructure, the components, to set the engagement level to a higher level. So think about, plain old portals, but think about sentiment analysis in social media, think about location-based services with geospatial data, think about the whole big data or the infinite data, like Paul correctly said. Think about the analysis of what the assets are creating to you, all in order to fine-tune your operation and to make sure that you exploit the assets, the capabilities, the power of the community. And just some examples, small and large. I mean, in Sweden there is legislation that citizens can select their own home care provider. So elderly people that need care can just find their own service provider. As a city, you would need to facilitate that. So the city is having a brokerage system, if you will, running on our capabilities to mix and match, let's say, providers and care takers. But when it comes to empowerment, when it comes to tapping into the resources, there is always another direction in that equation. Citizens are willing to contribute, but they also want to make sure that it is done in a safe way, that it is done in a transparent way, that they can track and trace what is being done with the assets, with your own data that is being shared. As a city, as a government, you carry a huge responsibility on your shoulders to be open. So you'd better make sure that you create a solution where the numbers add up. And again, that comes down to providing the infrastructure to provide the transparency. An example, the city of New York, quite active on the open data, provided the open data to the public also in a way that they now run these, for many years already, the big apps contest. The crowd can create functionality on top of the open data, create citizen services, if you will, so they tap into the brains of the New Yorkers. They actually pay the New Yorkers if they do their best. And this crowdsourcing is basically a mechanism to widen up the development arms of the city. So rather than providing citizen services from within the classic IT organization, you tap into the resources that are available in the city, and you get the best quality coming to you. Open data, yeah, I think we've discussed it over and over again. No surprise here. What I'd like to say is that open data is what it needs to be. But the moment you open up your data, you want to tap into those sources, you want to share those sources, you also better make sure that that data is there. The moment you open it up, other people start to tap into it, and it needs to be there 24/7. And it needs to be transparent, it needs to be open, it needs to be secure, it needs to be performant. Yeah, so it's nice to have all this free and open source and all these experiments and what have you. But by now, collectively, we need to go up to the next level of maturity in this. So cities, governments need to provide a solid backbone to make sure that we can provide those non-functional qualities to the solution. And then, you know, we talk about big data and what have you. But what it is getting back to what I said, it needs to be that 24/7. You'd better make it secure because you have to explain to the public what has been done with the data. You need to be transparent, and it needs to be there because businesses start to rely on it. Citizens start to rely on it. So it's a big responsibility on the shoulder of the cities. And we've done this for many years. I guess it's not a really new thing when it comes to sharing data or tapping into the sources, like here in Germany, an example of an environmental entity where, you know, they tap into the sources of the quality of the natural resources. Or like take Transport for London, ingesting millions of rows a day about everything that moves in the city. So they provide, let's say, a point of convergence where all that data is coming together. And, you know, by now in London you can subscribe to that data. You can build your own apps on it. You can build your own applications on top of it. So services start to depend on those facilities that the city created. And then you end up with responsible citizens, responsible communities, communities that find each other in providing services and solutions for things that have been in the hands of the public authorities before. People don't need to wait for the police anymore if they organize their own safety. People start to organize their own transport. People start to organize their own order. They produce their own energy. Why wait for the utilities? So there is a shift in responsibilities, widening up, let's say, the community that works to support those communities. An example, crowdsourcing, yeah. Also, I think I gave the example of New York with the big apps contest, but shifting the responsibility back to the creative citizens is tapping into their brains, is making sure that they are part of the solution. Final example, I guess, Singapore is a good example where it's a very rigid organized state country, what is it, city-state, nation-state, where they sit on, let's say, the fundamentals of the cadastre, of the geographical information. They own, let's say, the maps, if you will. But what they did is that on top of that, they allow citizens to plug in their own data, informal data, yeah, that you think makes sense for your life, on top of that backbone. So it's a classic example where the city provides the backbone, the solid, trustworthy backbone, and at the same time open the discussion up for the dynamics of society, tapping into the brains of society. So, and I have no idea where I am in time because the clock is not ticking anymore for me, I guess. But and again, I'd like to repeat that there is nothing new under the sun. It is new in the sense of technology, and in that sense, I like what Vincenzo said. I mean, yes, there's a dramatic change compared to if you look at, let's say, the history of mankind. But if you think about, let's say, the human-to-human interaction and all the networks that we are part of, we are already used to tap into each other's networks. And we are a member of so many different networks. And the technology is changing, and yes, once you start to use it, you'd better make sure that is working. Internet of Things, similar. Cities sit on an enormous amount of data for many years. The SCADA systems have been around for decades. The new thing is that you can connect them now. And now it's time to get to the next level. Create a backbone, create a new convergence point, bring it together, and start to analyze it, start to share it, start to give it back. So resources are there, the quality is already there. You've already paid for it in a certain way, so you'd better make use of it. And I guess with all the research and all the experiments, all the examples in the world that we have seen this week as well, we are in a position to get the best of both worlds together. An example is in San Francisco. Perhaps you know the example. It's probably overused because people remember this one as being very simple to understand. In the city of San Francisco, they changed the price of parking your car every other few weeks based on the information that they learn about parking behavior. So they measure the number of cars in the street by using parking sensors, so they tap into that knowledge. They analyze it, and then they publish it, and then third parties have created navigation systems to get you to the nearest parking place, to get you to the cheapest parking place. So you've got businesses tapping into those sources, you've got the community or the city to organize the fundamental backbone. It's becoming open data. And in the end, for the business of the city itself, you know, they are reducing cost because they know where to inspect cars or where to inspect parking because they can analyze it, and at the same time they tap into the resources in a way that they can play with the pricing, so there is more parking revenue, so more revenue and less costs. That is all about tapping into the right resources. Bus fleet management, yeah, in the region of Rome, yeah, sensors in the bus tell the maintenance department when to start the maintenance on that bus, rather than having the bus in the maintenance bay every 2 weeks. You know, it only goes there when the time is right. So altogether, and I think you've seen this. No, you didn't see this one. The Oracle Smart City platform is one of those solutions, amongst many others, yeah, that provide these backbones on all these layers in the city-to-citizen communication, in the communication between businesses and the city, and in the communication between all the stuff, all the hardware, all the devices, the Internet of Things, and the city. And then we are able to provide closed loops. Then we are able to share. Then we are able to share those resources across all these different domains in the total society. And we have many use cases to support that story. I would like to finish just because of time. Again, create a citywide nervous system, bring things together, sense what is happening, tap into those sensors, if you will, human sensors, Internet of Things sensors, the businesses that you analyze, and make sure that that all contributes to a better sharing of responsibilities across the board. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Iemke. And our last presentation of the day is Rega Kakabas. She's going to explain us what the city of Stockholm is doing to have a smarter and more sustainable city.
So hi everyone, I'm going to start off with this video that gives you a quick glance of Stockholm.
Stockholm is Europe's fastest growing.
Do you hear anything in the back? No? Can we, is there any sound or?
Let's check. I think we don't have
It's
the
without
sound.
sound?
Yeah, maybe if you can rely on the images and comment the video itself.
It has to have sound, so I think we'll skip the video then.
Okay.
Okay, so actually this is a video on YouTube, so I recommend everybody to just tap into YouTube after the session and write in Stockholm car trick, and you will be mind blown. It's a really nice presentation. So Stockholm is right now in a development phase that in many ways is very reminiscent of the city's earlier expansion phases. The first phase started in the early 1900s, and it was a phase that, you know, Stockholm had to be built to use electricity. So the central station was established, as well as the free harbor. And large areas of the Stockholm's inner city was established at this time as well. Moving on, just 50 years later, it was a period of, the metro was established in Stockholm and developed further. The central district heating system was in place. And this period was actually characterized by a great belief in the future. So there was a great influx of people moving into Stockholm from the countryside, which led to greater demands on housing. And so we started building ABC suburbs, which shortly stands for a neighborhood where you can live, work, and shop at the same time, and you don't need to move outside of your own neighborhood. Then around in the year 2000, the city expanded majorly. The new metro was, we started to develop the metro line with new lines and updated it. There was a modern city railway system in place, and e-services started booming in Stockholm at this time. And in Stockholm, we have something called Stockholm. It's actually the Stockholm City Council around 20 years ago in 1994 took a strategic decision to establish Stockholm, and it is competition neutral and open to all players on equal terms. It is passive infrastructure in the form of dark fiber, and it's open for all. It's open for everyone to come and build the services on it, telephone operators and so on. And analysts have pegged the impact of Stockholm at 1.9 million euros from the following sources: 31% business growth, 25% capital investment, 15% network investments, and 8% cost savings to the government. And we're still working a lot with Stockholm, and we're developing it a lot. Developing citizen services is in Stockholm about two things right now: e-services and open data. So let me start shortly with open data. In 2007, the City Council took a decision to open up all the city's data when it comes to, traffic, air pollution, air quality, population data, preschool statistics, and so on. And they opened up this data for all citizens to come in and find solutions on the future challenges. And to further emphasize this, we also established the Open Stockholm Award. That is a competition inviting all citizens to deliver apps or ideas on apps and e-services. The e-service development itself is also very big in Stockholm. There's a great influx of people moving to Stockholm, not only from Sweden, but also from countries outside of Sweden, which puts demands on the city and how they run their everyday life. And we need to provide a normal living standard. So with e-services, we want people to be able to run their errands round the clock at all times. And this leads to the next slide, which is about rapid urban growth in Stockholm. Approximately 15,000 new people are moving into Stockholm each year. It's actually one of Europe's fastest growing cities. It's only second next to Oslo. And this means that by year 2020, we will be 1 million inhabitants only in the Stockholm city center. And this puts a great demand, of course, on housing and infrastructure. And in some ways, we are already working with this. For instance, with public transportation, 3 out of 4 people are already today using sustainable transportation by either using the public transportation or bicycles, which is very big in Stockholm. This session, the title of the session was Ict-Based Initiatives. And Kista Science City, that you see on this picture, just located north of Stockholm, is itself an Ict-based initiative. The city of Stockholm took a strategic decision in 1986 to develop a triple helix cooperation for growth together with the business community and the universities. And this 30-year experiment and collaboration has led to Kista being one of the world's most rapidly and fastest growing science cities. We have all major international Scandinavian headquarters in Kista. We have the Mobile Life Center that is one of Europe's biggest centers that envision what you can do with what mobile phones can do for you and what you can do with mobile phones in the future. And something that is we're also collaborating, we're using ICT to develop, for instance, the upcoming sectors, medtech and clean tech. And to envision for you the importance of Kista, when one job is created in Sweden, 2 jobs are created in Stockholm. And when 2 jobs are created in Stockholm, there are 4 jobs created in Kista. This is truly where the magic happens in Sweden. And for all the reasons above, this is not a coincidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Rega. Thank you very much. So now I don't know. Okay, we have 2 minutes for questions from the audience. So if anybody wants to ask anything to our panelists. Any questions? Okay, then maybe I would like to ask maybe just a couple of them. Yeah, just to Rega, I have a question for you, and I would like to know how important you think is the participation of citizens in the success of a smart city project.
I think the importance of citizens is very important, actually, because you have to think 20% is only the technology, 80% is the people itself, and you need to have them engaged from the beginning if you want the technology to really have an importance and be a great part of your city's everyday life and make it efficient and smart.
Thank you. And then maybe I have another question for Paul. And maybe is sustainability really a concern for countries in the Middle East and China and India from the projects that you've been able to see around there?
Great question. Actually, there's a lot of good examples of zero carbon, like Mazda City, although mild success from its great ambition of what it wanted to be, and others. But I think that, you know, when you're talking about sustainability, there's a sustainability factor not just for the environment, but financially, and also from lifestyle, the user experience. So when you take a holistic approach, it is about green buildings, it is about that type of world. But, you know, when I went to architectural school, it really wasn't that out of the context of how you've been taught to be, you know, a steward of the built environment. I can't believe that we had a brand sustainability to be something. Isn't that just called good design? And that comes back to urban planners as well for cities. You know, it's amazing that you have to go through these exercises of branding something when it should just be common practice. And, you know, when we're getting back to, you know, the people question and that integration, it really is about that holistic thinking, specifically in the Middle East as well, because there's a lot of very smart people there that are thinking ahead horizon line-wise because they know that certain parts of their natural resources are not going to be there in the next 50 to 100 years. So with the money that they have now, they're reinvesting and rethinking who they should be. And I think that rethink, I think, is probably the most important thing as you hear about these green cities in Asia, in places like the Middle East, and now also emerging in Africa. They've had a chance to take a look what we've done here in Europe, Australia, and the United States, and they're going, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. And I think that those lessons learned and best practices now can be re-seen and rethought. But, you know, with the best laid plans, you have technology disruptions in there that now you have to adapt to. So the sustainability stuff should be a foundation, but unfortunately we have to brand it because sometimes people forget. So having a vision, of course, is something that you should always have as a touchstone because sometimes we get lost in the weeds.
Thank you very much. So I'm sorry, but we have no more time. I would like to thank you, all of our speakers today, for being here. And I would like to thank the audience for being with us today as well. Thank you very much and have a nice day.